Hallelujah. So again, we're in Revelation, the first chapter, verse 20, and we want to try to identify these stars. The mystery of the 7 stars, which thou sawest in my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks. The 7 golden candlesticks, what is that? The 7 candlesticks.
It's the menorah.
Right, that's the word menorah. And the menorah represents what?
7 spirits of the Lord.
You're not wrong. You're absolutely correct. But I'm trying to share now the 7 festivals, because the 7 festivals represents Yashra'al, the Father's salvation plan for the nation of Yashra'al. That's the salvation plan. So, the mystery of the 7 stars was thou sawest on my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks. The 7 stars are the messengers of the 7 churches, and the 7 candlesticks which thou saw are the 7 churches. All right? That's a lot there, but I just want to stick to the surface here. All right? We're not going to go into Asia Minor and those 7 churches there. And I know the blasphemy of those who say they are Jews or not. That's not for today's lesson. The book of Numbers 24:17. We need to identify the stars. Numbers 24:17. Akotishaya. If you can go to the book of, you're going to be in the book of Numbers. We're going to do 24:17. The book of Numbers 24:17. Akotishaya. And we're going to 17 to 19. Let's do it that way. 24:17 through 19. Midbar, Numbers 24:17 to 19.
I shall see him, but not now. I shall behold him, but not now. There shall come a star.
A star.
Out of Yahuah. And a scepter shall rise out of Yashra'al. It shall smite the corners of Moab, destroy all the children of Seth. And Edom shall be a possession. Seir also shall be a possession for his enemies, and Yashra'al shall do valiantly.
Hallelujah. Oh, go ahead. I thought you was reeling.
Out of Yahuah shall come he that shall have dominion, and shall destroy him that remaineth in the city.
So who is this star that we're talking about in the book of Numbers, the 24th chapter, verse 17? The Mashiyach. So the Mashiyach is considered the star is the Mashiyach. Mashiyach is being referenced or looked at here as a star. Judges 5 and 20. The book of Judges 5 and 20. You know what about, let's do this, my brother Solomon. The book of Judges, the 5th chapter, verse 20. Judges, the 5th chapter, verse 20.
They fought from heaven, the stars in their courses fought against Sisera.
Right. So can literal stars that we see in the heavens, do they fight? Right. So these stars would have to be something else. These stars are actually, in a lot of cases, they're messengers of Yahuah. 1 Kings 22:19. Shabbat, if you can do that for me. 1 Kings 22:19. 1 Kings 22:19.
Okay, 1 Kings 22:19. And Micaiah said, I'm reading out of Septuagint. Micaiah said, not so, it is not I. Hear the word of Yahuah. It is not so. I saw the Elohim of Yashra'al sitting on his throne, and all the hosts of heaven stood about him on his right hand and on his left.
So, and he said, hear thou therefore the words of Yahuah, or Yahuah. I saw the sovereign sitting on his throne, and all the hosts. The word host is very important. The host of heaven. The host of heaven would be who or what?
Stars.
Stars. Exactly. And those stars are what? Melachim. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy 17:2. If we can get our big brother Moshe for that, please. 17:2.
Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 2. If there be found among you within any of thy gates, which Yahuah thy Elohim giveth thee, man or woman that hath wrought wickedness in the sight of Yahuah thy Elohim, and transgressing his covenant.
Okay, read on verse 3, please.
Verse 3. And have gone and served other gods and worshipped them, either the sun or moon, or any of the hosts of Shemayim, which I have not commanded.
Now watch how we're looking at the host of heaven here now. And have gone and served other Elohims and worshiped them. We're talking about the Elohims here now. Either the sun, moon, or any of the hosts of Shemayim, which I have not commanded. So we know that this is a definite violation. The book of Nehemiah 9:6. Nehemiah 9:6. If we can get, because you can yell, please, to read that. Nehemiah 9:6.
Thou, even thou, O Yahuah, alone, thou hast made Shemayim, the Shemayim of Shemayims, with all their hosts, the earth, and all the things that are therein, the seas, and all that is therein. And thou preservest them all, and the host of Shemayim worship thee.
Right, so we're talking about this host here. Job 38:6-7. We can get Zakar for that, please. And if Moray, you can get Psalms 147, verse 4. Go ahead and finish it up. We'll be done. The 38th chapter, verses 6-7. The book of Job, the 38th chapter, 6-7.
Whereupon all the foundations thereof fast. Who made the cornerstone thereof? When the morning stars sing together, all the sons of Elohim shall rejoice.
The morning stars sang together. They did what?
Shouting for joy.
So stars can't do that. Literal stars can't do that. So these stars that we're referring to here now, read on.
But who shut up the seas with the door when they break forth? And it can issue out of the womb. When I make the cloud the garment thereof, and the deep darkness in the while they're playing for it.
Okay. We have more right. Let's read it out. Psalms 147:4.
Psalm 147:4. He telleth the number of the stars. He calleth them all by their name. Verse 5.
Oh, hallelujah. And Moray 48, 1-3.
140 or 48.
148. 148, please. Verses 1-3.
Praise ye Yahuah. Praise ye the sovereign from the heaven. Praise him in the heights. Praise ye him, all the Malachim. Praise ye him, all his hosts.
And so the hosts are being referred to as what? Angels, right? Messengers.
Praise ye him, sun and moon. Praise him, all ye stars of light.
Hallelujah. 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 Now, we're going to go back to the book of Bereshit. And we're going to pretty much close it out from here. Bereshit, the 15th chapter. Bereshit, the 15th chapter. We got, okay, 15th chapter. Watch this. Watch this. I'm going to read it first. 15:3. And Abram, because his name is not Abraham yet, and Abram said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed. And lo, one born in my house is my heir. And behold, the word of the sovereign came unto me, saying, This shall not be thy heir, but he that shall come forth out of thy bowels shall be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad and said, Look down towards Shamayim, and tell the stars if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be. I have a question. Two very important words we must examine. Two very important words in the book of Bereshit, the 3rd chapter, verse 5. And to narrow it down, we will look at the verse 4. So watch the question. I'm going to read it, then I'm going to ask the question. We're going to narrow it down. And behold, the word of the sovereign came unto Abraham saying, or Abram saying, This should not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thy own bowels shall be thine heir. Now, what is the most important word in that verse? Genesis, the 15th chapter, verse 4. Heir. Hallelujah. You're correct. Give me another word. You're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, it inheritance, because it's going to show relationship, but
I would say out of thy own bowels.
absolutely. Hallelujah. Very good. There's a word that I'm looking for. One more word. You just about cleared off all the words.
The word?
Yeah. Thine? Yes. Makoti? Vowels, yes. Maury had vowels. We all good. What about this word here? Everybody's correct. Everybody's correct. What about that word he? We'll read it again. Because everybody's correct. I mean, everybody is on point. And you heard the word of the sovereign came to him saying, This shall not be thy heir, which is correct, but he. We have to identify that he. But he that shall come forth out of thy bowels shall be thine heir. Now, this word he is a personal pronoun. All right? It's a personal pronoun. We're talking about ownership, and very special emphasis should be put on this he. He shall come from your bowels. Who is that he? Who? The Mashiyach. You said the Mashiyach. Anybody else have any suggestions or? So, who is this person? Shabbat Yahuah. He gets an extra burger tomorrow. He's absolutely correct. The he is actually referring to the Mashiyach. Again, on the surface now, the he would be actually who?
Isaac.
Isaac, right. Isaac is a prophetic shadow picture of who?
Mashiyach.
The Mashiyach. And why would we say now that Isaac is a prophetic shadow picture of the Mashiyach?
First born of Bible.
Exactly. Where did Abraham take Isaac to be slaughtered?
On the mountain.
Right, a mountain, right. He took the stone mountain and he was about to do this sacrifice.
Mount Moriah.
There we go.
Mount Moriah.
Mount Moriah. Where was Solomon's temple built on?
Mount Moriah.
Mount Moriah. Where was the Mashiyach crucified?
Mount Moriah.
Hallelujah. So we're good, right? So we see that Isaac is a prophetic shadow picture of the Mashiyach. We already went to, in verse 5 of Bereshit 15:5, who or what is this star? And we know that that star is actually the Mashiyach, so that's actually more confirmation on who this he is. And so, Mr. Cobb, we're going to finish it up. Lazarus come forth with the book of John, the 11th chapter. We're going to only read verses 1 through 6, and we will be done. And show how all of this ties in. And we will be done. The book of John, or Yahuah, the 11th chapter. Chapter, we read verses 1 through 6. Now a certain man was sick, and looking at, because I asked Shia last week, what was the diagnosis of the man, and we said that the man was sick, but if you look at it real closely now, we need some more information to be able to give a complete diagnosis, what Shai was, Ruach was trying to share with me. Because sick isn't actually a diagnosis. Sick is more like a complaint. So you would actually need something more in order to identify what the sickness is. So there was a certain man who was sick. His name is Lazarus. Anybody remember what the word Lazarus means?
Help. Elohim helps.
Right, he who Elohim helps, because it's also associated with the word Eliezer. So the word Lazarus means he who Elohim helps, or who Elohim has helped. The word Bethany. Anybody remember what the word Bethany means?
House.
House of mourning.
Right, the house of mourning, the house of misery. Right, so the Father is come to help the house of misery because the house is sick, which is a prophetic shadow picture of the nation of Yashra'al. And her sister Mary, the word Mary, I read verse 2, and this was that Mary which anointed the sovereign with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. How many Marys were there? No, see, there was a Mary and a Martha. Mary means, anybody remember what the word Mary means? Rebellion. The word Martha means it's the same. Yeah, so both sisters were rebellious, right? It's been a long time since I've been in school, so I'm going to ask Kasaya. Is that spelled correct? Because somebody, I did some little funny spelling before this. Is that correct? Rebellious? R-E-B-E-L-L-I-O-U-S, or is it? Is that correct? Anybody?
That's right.
That's right?
Yeah, you got it right.
That's right? Oh, okay. Somebody said it's right, it's right. Okay. So she'll take the heat. If anybody sees me any messages on YouTube, sorry if I spelled that on the word wrong. So both words mean, both sisters were rebellious. And Maureen went to the book of Ezekiel. You remember which, the two sisters that it talked about, was it, it was a 23 something around there. But the two sisters is also talked about in the book of Ezekiel. Okay, and we are now in verse 3. Therefore his sister sent unto him, which is the Mashiyach, saying, Sovereign, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. Question, who is it that the Father or Yahuah lovest, and it says that this person is sick. Yashra'al. But in layman's terms, or in the surface level, who is the person that's sick? Lazarus. Hallelujah. And so Lazarus, we're just going to go through verses 1 through 6. Now, Lazarus, his sickness represents, because he's actually now dead. He dies. He's dead. But the Mashiyach now is going to actually now resurrect Lazarus, right? Remember we had talked about last week, we do this at another time because of time constraint. When you go to the book of Ezekiel, the 37th chapter, in this valley, those bones are considered dead bones, right? It is going to take now the Mashiyach to do a couple of things now to actually bring these bones back together. So he's going to breathe on these bones the breath of life, right? So this is what's interesting. What Ezekiel saw, there were little people, the way that we see people operating and moving around, but they're actually dead because the Ruach is not in them. They're not following Torah, so they're considered dead, right? When you go now to the first part of creation with Adam, Adam was a living being, but what happened now that the Father had to do something to Adam. Do anybody know what that thing was? Exactly. So it's the same thing. Just breath of life. I mean, it gets very, very important. So he's going to do the same thing with Lazarus now, which is a prophetic shadow picture of the nation of Yashra'al. We're alive, but he needs to breathe upon them to set apart spirit. So now the flesh is going to come upon them. They're going to get up and walk and move. And when they walk and move, they're walking and they're moving in
Power.
Torah. Power, yes. Yeah, power too. Okay, all right. We're watching too much of what's that character name? What's the guy that owns all of the hotels? He left the drug dealer business and got the
Power.
no, the guy has a name. Ghost. Yeah, you can watch too much Ghost. Yeah. He said power. All right. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy 7, 6 through 8. And if we can get Abad Yahu to go to Jeremiah 31 and 3. We're about to finish it up. We only have, if you're just going to read it, you're not going to do no breakdown because it's self-explanatory. Deuteronomy, the 7th chapter, verses 6 through 8. Israel is sick. We are. And what we're going to be doing today, so that we make sure we have a good understanding about it, we're going to actually read it. Okay? We're not going to do the telepathy, the clairvoyance, and anything like that. You know, I'm only working on the 5 senses. So whenever you're ready, we're going to go ahead and read that for everybody. Deuteronomy, the 7th chapter, verses 6 through 8. And just messing with you.
Oh, you're talking about Jeremiah.
Oh, excuse me, Deuteronomy. Oh, you're doing, who's doing Deuteronomy? Oh, if we can get a Koti. Yeah. No, you have your, oh wow, you know what, back in the day, oh my gosh.